Hello and welcome to another video from the only channel that you need to not only survive the current apocalypse, but actually enjoy it. Today's video is going to be about cast not thy pearls before swine. And I know that's like an old King James style rendering of it, and I don't even think it's actually King James. It's something I just made up. But at Matthew chapter 7 and verse 6, it is a fact that Jesus said not to give pearls to pigs. So what is he talking about here? Well, the reason this is coming up is because over the course of my life, I have wasted a whole lot of my time casting pearls before pigs. And as of late, quite a few of my subscribers, friends, listeners have written me notes or communicated to me that they are busy at this same activity. And remember, it's Jesus that said, don't cast your pearls before swine. So if we cast pearls before swine, we're actually sinning because we're doing something that Jesus told us not to do. If we break this verse down, we're talking basically about throwing something valuable to an unclean animal. And it very specifically says pig because even though there are hundreds of animals that are unclean, the pig is the one that perhaps everybody is aware of, even if they don't believe in the Bible or go to church. So I did a video a while back where I talked about why an animal would be unclean, and I speculated rather accurately. I do believe that pigs are unclean for the same reason that humans are unclean. Human beings can have a demon or a wicked spirit, what the Bible calls an unholy spirit or a dirty spirit. We can confirm this by the fact that when Legion was cast out of the man in the cemetery, he requested that Jesus cast him into some pigs. He didn't ask him to send me into some cows, send me into those pigs. And Jesus went ahead and did that for him. And in fact, once the unclean spirits got into the pigs rushed over a cliff or at least a high mountain into the water and they drowned. Something very, very unnatural. And human beings who have an unclean spirit believe in and do very unnatural things. So when we talk about giving somebody something that's valuable, we have to consider what is the single most valuable thing we can give somebody, and that's our time. As human beings, we do not live very long, so the amount of time that we have here to do good things is very limited. So if we waste our time trying to help people that can't appreciate it or can't even comprehend the value of our time, then we are sinning. We're breaking a rule given to us directly by Jesus. Now, I, over the course of my life, have probably wasted a good percentage, probably the vast majority of my time trying to help people that could not possibly benefit from the amount of effort I was putting into attempting to help them. And that being the case, I know that for the most part, people who are trying to get where I am at are right now where I used to be. So we're going to give you a couple of warnings. I've got a friend that I talk to on the phone quite often. I met him through YouTube. And one day he came on and he sent me an email about some comments that had been made towards him over some very reasonable comments that he made on a video and asked me if I could help. And so I thought, well, let me go take a look at what's going on over there. And it was a cartoon about the book of Job in the Bible. And it was very obviously put there by people who hate the Bible for whatever reason. But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, you know, that's actually understandable. A lot of people grow up in very oppressive households, being forced to attend the meetings of very oppressive religions. And so over the course of time, they, reasonably become very resentful of that environment, and so they want to attack it. Something we do as humans when we are attacked by something is we go to the core of that thing and we attack it. Well, the core of Christianity, so-called Christianity, is supposed to be the Bible. Well, it isn't. There is absolutely no connection whatsoever between Christianity and the Bible. The religions of Christianity are actually against the Bible. Nothing I've ever heard from any Christian religion has had anything to do with the teachings of Jesus or anyone else who wrote books that are now included as part of the Bible canon. So anyways, I went to this channel, and it was very obvious that these people really hated the Bible. They hated religion, they hated God. I didn't dig into it deeply because I didn't want to waste a bunch of time, but I left a few comments. And basically the comments I left were in response to the negative comments against my friend. Well, what happened is I started getting dozens of replies. And so immediately I understand that this is not going to work. It's just a waste of my time. But I look at some of the replies, and some of them are just blatantly evil against my God. It stirs up my emotions. I don't want to allow that to just sit there, so I go back and respond to that. But other comments seemed a little bit more reasonable, very, very reasonable, from people who potentially could benefit from the things I know. So I went back and left comments on that. Well, that developed into something else, and it started to shut down my channel because I was so busy messing with these people that I wasn't doing anything with sustenance and covering. So I went back and I clicked on a few of the comments, and then I clicked on the people that own those comments. And in every case, the people's videos were about gay, lesbian issues. And it didn't seem like there was anybody responding to me that was heterosexual, because there was no videos that a heterosexual would have in their favorites. And what I was able to figure out was that this YouTube channel, which make cartoons about the Bible, all filled with vile hatred, was owned by a few members of the gay lesbian community. And looking at the numbers, it was a way that could potentially support financially 24 people. And it looked like that was about how many people were there, although it may only be 5 or 6, because a lot of the channels seem to be copies of other channels, just with different names. But in any case, even today, now I haven't made any comments on these videos for about 6 months, but pretty much every week somebody leaves a comment from one of those replies I left, or reply to one of those comments, trying to taunt me back over because I have a popular channel. And the numbers on these things, it's like every video on that channel has 100,000 views to 1 million views. So these people are making big bucks off of this. And as a popular channel, what happens, anytime I make a comment on somebody's channel, YouTube redirects people to go to that channel. So every time I comment on this anti-God channel, I'm basically acting as an advertisement for that channel. So you can see already there's a danger to getting involved in this, because you know, not only are you wasting your time, the limited time that God has given you, but you're wasting it in a manner that is going to bring attention, undue attention to basically worthless, vile video that is going to do more harm to the people that go there than good. Well, I was on a Skype call with another very good friend of mine the other day, and he was talking about doing the same thing, only he was going to channels that were anti-Bible, that were not run by the gay lesbian community, but were run by Islam, or by the members of the Muslim community. And it was the same thing. It was just harsh anti-God propaganda against the Bible. So here, once again, you know, if you're part of this little community, you understand that the Bible is not the problem with this demonic propaganda. It's the churches. The churches hold up a Bible in their hand, and then they say their vile things, and then everyone hates the Bible instead of hating that religion. Happens a lot. We're humans. That's the way we work. And, you know, I really, really don't like this anti-Bible propaganda, but there is absolutely nothing we can do to break that trend. That's just the way the world works. Now, I have to tell you, I don't have anything against people who practice homosexuality, and I don't have anything against people who practice the religion of Islam, or the practice any other religion for that matter. We're human beings. We all want to be part of something better than ourselves, and we all want to follow what we consider to be our natural instincts. Now, and when it comes to homosexuality, I'm very, very fortunate that I was not born with those desires. So I am thankful to God that I don't have that kind of a distraction, because just regular heterosexual desires can be a distraction, but they're a distraction that people accept. If you have homosexual desires, they're a distraction that people in general don't accept. So not only are you going to have a hard life trying to fulfill those desires, just as I, as a heterosexual, have a hard life trying to fulfill my desires, you're going to put yourself in a position to be ostracized if you're gay. So I don't feel sorry for homosexuals, because homosexuals have this really hard road to hoe, just like the rest of us. We all have to go out there and make a living. We all have to somehow fit in at least enough that we don't get beaten up every day. And their struggle is not worse or better than our struggle. It's just different. And it's the same thing with people who are born in an Islamic country. You know, their life is going to be hard. It's going to be, they're going to have a hard time. Especially if they're like us, they're human beings that want to do what's right. They're going to have a hard time fitting in, because in a country that's ruled by religion, you're going to be abused and ostracized anytime you try to do what's right. And it doesn't matter what kind of religion: Christianity, Judaism, Islam, even the religions that seem to be outside of the circle, which actually aren't, like Buddhism and Hinduism. So here's my advice. You are a human being. You know that you want to do what's right. You know you love people. You see people out there that you think you can help. You want to help them. Well, go ahead and try. But just kind of try to limit the amount of effort you put into this, because I was looking at the verse earlier, Matthew chapter 7, verse 6, and it says, don't throw your pearls, plural, to swine. You know, it's not so much that we can't throw them a pearl or maybe a crumb and just see what they do. Because I have been in the past, just like Paul. Paul was the single most religious person that ever lived during his day. And I feel like it's safe to say that I was the single most religious person who ever lived in my day when I was practicing religion. And when I was in my religion, if someone had come up to me and said, you know, you're stupid and you're going to hell because you don't stand inside of a star and eat a sacred cookie, I would have stood up against that. There's no doubt. Not because I was ignorant and brainwashed, but because I simply knew that that did not sound right. Now, there were things in my own religion that didn't sound right, but they were mixed in with a lot of things that really did sound right. So I was willing to accept the bad with the good. And I think that's the way it was with Paul. But if you notice, when Jesus struck him blind and had him go to some Christian's house to get healed — when I say Christian, I mean someone who was a follower of Christ, not something like what we have today that's called a Christian — well, as soon as Paul's eyes opened up, he was like, there it is. I have found the truth, and I will never go back to religion again. And so he did. For the rest of his life, he went out and he took the Nazirite vow, which is to grow his hair out and stand out as different from the rest. And that was part of the Jewish religion, but it was a part of the Jewish religion that was also part of natural law. So he was able to continue doing the parts of his religion that were right. He just avoided the parts of his religion that were wrong. And so you should expect the same thing to happen with you. You can't blind anybody and bring back their you can't blind anybody and bring back their sight. But that doesn't mean you can't do anything for them. I've done quite a few videos that have extraordinary information in them that is pretty easy to grasp. You know, if there's a part of it that you really, really like, think about that part and whether or not it would be easy to comprehend on its own. You don't want to go give them something that you can't back up without a 3-hour speech. Try to find something that just makes perfect sense, that everybody can agree to, and put that into the conversation and see what happens. If the people still stand up against you, you don't ever have to go back. You're good. God accepts the amount of time you've put into that. And in fact, if you continue to put time into it, he may not accept it, because he has given us the instruction not to throw pearls, plural, before pigs. Now, in the Muslim community, here's the way it works, because people in the Muslim community, you know, here we are in this country. What do we know about Muslims? Well, if we watch the networks or we do research on the internet, a lot of times we know that every Muslim rapes their children and kills one of them for a sacrifice to Satan, because that's part of the propaganda. The reality is, there are a lot of Muslim people living in this country, and if you ever make some kind of a relationship with them, you'll find out that they're just like everybody else. They love their children and would never do anything to harm them, other than the fact that all human beings are imperfect and do bad things. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they do that because of their religion. On the other side of the ocean, every Muslim believes that Christians rape their children and murder one every now and then as a sacrifice to Satan. So is there any truth to that? No, that's not a regular teaching of the Bible, but it cannot be denied that many, many people in this country do rape their children and murder them. It's just a fact of life. It's the 1 in a million or 1 in 1,000 or whatever that do that. And if you ask them what religion they are, they'll tell you, if they live in this country, that they're Christian. If they live in that country, they're Muslim. It doesn't mean you can say that all Christians rape and kill their children, and it doesn't mean you can say that all Muslims rape and kill their children. The propaganda over here is almost identical to the propaganda over there. Just take and switch out the words Holy Quran and Bible, or switch out the words Christian and Muslim, and it's the same story. So when you find a web page, and these web pages are out there are web pages that say in the Bible Jesus killed people for no reason, or Jesus raped people, or Jesus, everybody knows that Jesus had a whole bunch of illegitimate children he didn't take care of. And there's these crazy, crazy stories which have no support in the ancient world and have no support in the holy book of this faith, which is the Bible. And the same thing is true if you look into these stories on the other side of the water. There's nothing in the Holy Quran that tells people to go around murdering and raping. Now, if you look at the Bible, there are stories about people that God loved committing these atrocities. And so I suspect that in the book of the Quran that there are stories very similar. But I know for a fact that in the Bible, God did not approve of those acts. And even when he did allow them and give his blessings to them, he was always saddened by these things. So I'm not going to tell you that I support or defend the Quran or I believe in the Quran, because for me, the way I work as a human being is I check something out for myself and then I form an opinion. And I have not read the Quran. I haven't got a clue what's in there other than what I've been told by the propaganda machine that's going on over here in this patriotic environment that we're forced to live in. So anyways, the point of this whole thing is that you're going to want to tell people about the truth, but you got to remember that all humans, just like all pigs, can be completely filled with an unclean or a dirty spirit. And Jesus said it's not rituals that make you clean or dirty. It's not what you eat and swallow that makes you clean or dirty. It's what comes out of your mouth, because as the Bible says, so as the heart speaks, so the mouth speaks. So if a person is speaking about their patriotic duty or how much they hate a certain color of people or a certain nationality of people or a certain religion of people, that is a dirty person with a dirty spirit. In general, for the most part, you don't even have to say a word to them. But if you see something in them that makes you feel like you can help them, throw them a pearl, just one, and see what they do with it. You don't want to waste your pearls on people. If someone wastes one pearl, there's no reason to throw them a whole string. If you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.